Hello and welcome to Disney Movie Investigations. This is our case file on Anastasia. So this movie, just for those of you that have never seen these videos, what we do is we take a deep dive into the world of Disney Plus and take a look at one of the movies that is featured on it. And we take a look at the movie's history, how it got made, as well as its lasting legacy within the world of Disney. So like I said, this week's movie is going to be on Anastasia. And this movie was released on November 14th, 1997, and it was directed and produced by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. And this movie had a budget of $50 million, and it ended up doing $140 million in its box office returns. So definitely made its money back. But before we look at the history of Anastasia, I think we should look at the Disney connection of Don Bluth. So Don Bluth was a former Disney animator, and Bluth started at the Disney Studios as an assistant animator on Sleeping Beauty. And he would go on to work on Disney movies such as Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh, and The Rescuers. And he would be promoted to the director of animation on Pete's Dragon. In 1979, Don Bluth and Gary Goldman and John Pomeroy, along with 9 other Disney animators, left the Disney studio to form Don Bluth Productions. Their first feature was The Secret of NIMH, and Bluth this was highly successful for Bluth. It was a breakout feature for him. Bluth also created the Bluth Group, which created animated video games such as Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. And then in 1986, Bluth teamed with Steven Spielberg to make the animated feature An American Tail and Land Before Time. And both of these were huge successes. And then Bluth would go on, unfortunately, to have a series of disappointments with Rockadoodle, Thumbelina, A Troll in Central Park, and The Pebble and the Penguin. So this was around these were all 80s movies, early 90s movies. And unfortunately, while they were great movies, they did not connect with audiences. So that leads us to Anastasia. And in May of 1994, Don Bluth and Gary Goldman signed a long-term agreement with Fox to produce animated features. And Fox actually gave them $100 million to construct an animated studio. And Don Bluth and Gary Goldman selected Phoenix, Arizona as its location. And the Fox had suggested several projects for him. Among them was The King and I and My Fair Lady, both animated adaptations of both those musicals. Bluth and Goldman, however, decided that Anastasia was, with the story elements of Pygmalion added in, was going to be their first animated project for this newly formed Fox Animation Studio. For research, Bluth and Goldman actually enlisted former CIA agents stationed in Moscow and St. Petersburg to get the full kind of story behind the legend of Anastasia. So now that we kind of know the basic how the movie got made, let's look at the cast. So Meg Ryan was cast as the Princess Anastasia, and Meg Ryan was initially hesitant about doing this due to the dark historical events surrounding Anastasia and the Russian Revolution. But animators created an animated clip of Anastasia speaking a speech from Sleepless in Seattle, and they showed that to Meg Ryan, and that's what ultimately convinced her to take on the role of Anastasia. Liz Calloway was the singing voice for Anastasia, and then Kristen Dunst was the voice of young Anastasia at the beginning of the movie. John Cusack was cast as Dimitri, and Glenn Walker Harris Jr. was the singing voice for Dimitri. Kelsey Grammer is Vladimir. Christopher Lloyd was cast as Rasputin, with Jim Cummings providing the singing voice. Hank Azaria was cast as Bartox, the humorous sidekick to Rasputin. Angela Lansbury is Marie Romanoff, who is the grandmother to Anastasia. And we have Bernadette Peters cast as Sophie. So this was a musical adaptation of the story of The Legend of Anastasia. And the film score was composed by David Newman. And the songs were written by Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty. And the songs are quite memorable. We'll kind of get into them a little bit later. But yeah, the songs are one of the definitely highlights of this movie. And in terms of the plot of Anastasia is the daughter of the last Russian Tsar, Anastasia, is found by two con men, Dmitri and Vladimir, who seek the reward that the grandmother has promised to anyone who can find the lost Princess Anastasia. But the evil Rasputin still wants the Romanov to be destroyed and will do anything within his dark power to stop Anastasia from reaching her grandmother. So that kind of gives you a nutshell about the movie. There's not really any like major stories about like how the movie got made. It ran fairly smoothly from what I understood. And Fox was putting a lot of money and promotional power to it. This did get Disney's attention as part of the release. The movie, like I said, was released on November 21st, 1997. Disney coincidentally re-released The Little Mermaid a week prior to Anastasia coming out. And then Disney was under criticism for this, but they claimed that the 17-day re-release of The Little Mermaid was always planned and had nothing to do with Anastasia. And it was planned to promote the home video release in March of 1998. So it was kind of a tie-in, getting audiences re-familiar with The Little Mermaid. In addition, Disney would also release Flubber the following week after Anastasia, along with a double feature of George of the Jungle and Hercules. So just to kind of summarize, Disney was releasing The Little Mermaid, Flubber, George of the Jungle, and Hercules as a double feature, all within the same time frame as Anastasia. So I think Disney was a little threatened. Also, Disney refused to advertise Anastasia on any ABC Wonderful World of Disney programs, and they also banned corporate sponsors from airing film clips during their TV commercials as well. So again, I think Disney was a little threatened by this, by Anastasia. In terms of marketing, Anastasia had a $50 million budget, and this was actually more than than any other film that they had put marketing dollars behind. To put it in perspective, it was more than Independence Day, which was a couple years earlier. Promotional sponsorships they had from Burger King, Dole, Hershey, and Shell, as well as the 1997 World Figure Skating Championships. They also had a tie-in as well. I think, I couldn't find much about that, but I think they licensed the music for the skaters to use, to my understanding, from the little information that's out there on it. They licensed Galoob to make toys and dolls of the characters of Anastasia. Little Golden Books produced several books featuring the characters. And in August of 1997, SeaWorld featured a 40-foot long and 20 feet high inflatable playground called Anastasia's Kingdom, along with meet and greets with Bartoks. So this was all done to help promote the film that was coming out. There was a sequel. A direct-to-video sequel was entitled Bartok the Magnificent, which was released in 1999. And it basically follows Bartok after the Anastasia movie. In addition, there was also an ice show called Anastasia on Ice that ran from 1998 to 1999. For those of you that are fans on our Facebook page, I did post the commercial on it. I couldn't find any video footage of the show itself, but to my understanding, they did feature several of the songs as ice dancing musical numbers. And then the characters Anastasia and Dmitri as well had a musical number as well. So there is also a stage musical adaptation of this film, and this unfortunately didn't run too long. It ran from May 13th to June 19th, 2016. There was major changes from the film. Speak clearly now. Gleb Vaganov was the secret police officer, and he was the villain that replaced Rasputin. And Lily became Sophie. For those of you that are interested, there is a YouTube video cam footage of this entire musical in its entirety. I think, and this is me just speculating, I think the reason that the musical did not do as well as they would have hoped is the promotional material that I could find on the musical was all basically saying, come and see the stage musical adaptation of the animated film. And the footage that I saw on the YouTube, the film is much different. And I did listen to the soundtrack as well. A lot of the lyrics are changed, obviously to reflect that Rasputin is not in the movie anymore. But it does become a little bit more political about like the times that Russia was going through at the time. Because this is supposedly the movie is taking place in like early 1900s when Russia was not at its greatest strength. And the movie divulges into kind of how depressing Russia was at that time. So I think people were taken aback by like, oh, we thought it was this cheerful, happy animated film, but yet you're commenting on how depressing Russia was at the time. Yeah, so I think that's why the musical was not as well remembered as people would have hoped. However, back to the film. It did receive Academy Award nomination for Best Song for Journey to the Past. Unfortunately, it did lose to My Heart Will Go On from Titanic. It also received an Academy Award nomination for Best Musical Score. Unfortunately, it did lose to The Full Monty. There was a video game adaptation for the home computer, which was called The Adventures of Puka and Bartox, as well as there was a handheld tiger game as well. So yeah, in terms of final thoughts, I think this movie is amazing. I think it's one of the best non-Disney animated movies that there is out there. It's a great watch with a great story. I really recommend you go out of your way to see this movie. Like the songs are great, the characters are great. I always kind of get very like happy thoughts when I watch this movie. I just think it's a great overall movie, and I think it's one of those hidden treasures that now that Disney owns Fox, it's kind of their kind of one of those hidden gems they get to add on Disney Plus now. So I think it's I definitely recommend it. There was a lot of talk online, especially when Disney bought Fox. Would Anastasia be part of the Disney Princess line? This is my opinion. I doubt it. I think that you got to remember that the Disney Princess line is used as a marketing tool to help promote the Disney princesses. And unless there's a huge surge of people wanting Anastasia merchandise, I just don't see that happening. The only way that I would see it happening is if they were to remake Anastasia as a movie. They could possibly make it as a Disney movie. They would use Anastasia, and this is so, I doubt this would happen, but if Epcot had a Russian pavilion, they could maybe use Anastasia. But again, I doubt either of those are happening. But again, never say never in the world of Disney. Stranger things have happened. So definitely think you should check it out. Even, like I said, it's one of the best non-Disney movies that is out there in terms of animated musicals. So I thought I'd share that. And then in terms of our case file, I don't have any Anastasia merchandise, but I thought I would share a bit of Don Bluth Disney artifact. So this is a pop figure of Elliot from Pete's Dragon. So I just thought I would share that. So again, thank you for joining us for this Disney case file. That our next case file will be on the World of Disney premiere movie Annie, which was released in 1999. And along with that, we're going to include a Disney story on the former Disney's MGM Studios, now Hollywood Studios attraction, Superstar Television. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video, and hope you guys are having a great day. Bye.